Welcome to Friday Friends, RI Elder Info's weekly look at the organizations and individuals providing resources for Rhode Island seniors, caregivers, and professionals.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. It is 9 o'clock on Friday, and that means you are watching or listening to Friday Friends, RI Elder Info streaming podcast. With me, Deb Burton, your host, where we bring you information that you or someone you know needs to know about. So please hit the like button, the share button, the follow button, all those social media cues that tell people, hey, check this out, because we are going to have a great show today. And as you all know, we could not do this without the support of our sponsors. So a big shout out to Point 32 Health Foundation, United Healthcare, as well as 321 Media and Oak Street Health, England Studios, and our sponsor, McCarthy Law. And I will be joined this morning by Samantha McCarthy right after these messages.
Here at McCarthy Law, we practice in the areas of estate planning, long-term care planning, elder care law, and residential real estate. Our focus is really on providing peace of mind to our clients.
If you're interested in scheduling a consultation with our office, you can feel free to reach out to us at 401-541-5540. You can also reach out via website at www.mccarthylawri.com. You also should check out our social media, both on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn for some helpful tips and tricks.
Well, hi, Samantha. How are you today?
Hello, I'm well, thanks. How are you?
Awesome. So for those folks who maybe haven't seen you on our show before, you want to tell everybody who you are and where you're from?
Sure. So I'm Samantha McCarthy. I'm an attorney at McCarthy Law. We are located physically in East Greenwich, but we help clients throughout the state of Rhode Island and in the southern part of Massachusetts as well. And our practice really focuses on helping people as they age. So we do estate planning, we do elder law, elder care, long-term care planning. And so really our job is to help people get the resources and the information and the protection that they need as life progresses and changes to make sure they can maximize their years while also protecting what they've worked so hard for.
Oh, that is so important. These days we are living longer and not necessarily living healthier. So I would imagine that the need for your services is growing among people.
Yeah, and I think, you're right. People are living longer and, resources are sometimes abundant, sometimes not. And so what you need for care versus what you can afford are two sometimes different things. And so it's really important to understand all of the options so that you can make sure you're maximizing the quality of your life, not just the quantity as we're living longer.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense because we want to live as we want to, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And so part of that, I think, becomes a little bit more challenging as we get older in navigating those health and social service systems. So what are some of the options to get some help with that?
Yeah, so we have noticed, we call it like the long-term care maze because it's like there's a lot of options and services. There's a lot of information out there, but it's like what applies to me, what doesn't, how do I even get started? And it's so overwhelming for not just seniors, but also their families who are often trying to help them navigate. So we actually recently, within the last year, launched a program called Life Care Planning, where we have elder care coordinators on staff on our team here, which is a little bit of a different model for a law firm, right? Like people think we're just doing legal services, but we really want to help people to age safely in place as long as possible, make sure they have access to the right resources. And so this has become our way to kind of get back to our clients in the community and have an opportunity to sit with people and say, okay, you're at home. What can we do to prolong the amount of time you can stay home? How do we maximize the quality of your life? How do we pay for the care that you need? And that's like a continuum because it's not something that's stagnant forever, right? And so as things change, then we're able to support clients through life to continue to maximize what they're able to do while figuring out how we make that happen financially, because those two things are not always really logically married together, and that gets complicated.
Absolutely. Some of the things that I hear people say about the aging process and caregiving and getting older. First of all, not a single one of us can escape getting older. We are doing that every single second, right?
Yeah.
But navigating that, it's if you are, say, a caretaker for a child, there's a normal expected flow, kind of like an individual will have a baby, they'll be out of work for a certain number of weeks, and then daycare starts and they're going to have every single sniffle known to man. And then kindergarten, and then from a workflow, it's kind of following the school schedule. But caregiving for an older adult or a loved one with a chronic illness isn't like that, and people say, it's like drinking from a fire hose and then it's okay. And so with that ebb and flow, how can a care manager help people on a regular basis? Because it like hits all at once and then it kind of trickles down until next time.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a good analogy because, I have young children, and it is so true that, like, largely you're just one foot in front of the other doing the things, and there's this whole societal system that helps you walk through that. And with seniors, I think both because different diagnoses affect people differently, two 80-year-olds are not necessarily the same. They're often not. Two people with Alzheimer's are not often the same. And the financial picture of paying for care, the family support picture of caregivers, it's different for everybody. And so you are so correct to say that that is an ebb and flow. I think the purpose of having some sort of manager who's assisting to, plan and support the care is to say, we're here to put together a plan for best case scenario. We're here to put together a plan for worst case scenario. And then we figure out all the things in between, because if you don't plan now for the crisis, when the crisis happens, you'll have no idea what to do. So like proactively put together that plan. If you're living at home, but you may have a potential need for rehab because you're aging, and people often fall and break their hips as they age, right?
Right.
Well, where would you want to go for rehab? What are those places? How do we identify the places that would be a good fit? If we know your time at home is being maximized now, but maybe there is a point where there will be a transition needed to a care community, then what care community would that be? Figure those things out now. A care manager can help with all of that. They can help with making sure they're advocating for your care. So whether it's at appointments or it's in rehab, we're talking about care planning meetings, making sure you're getting everything you need while you're in the community, accessing all of the resources, kind of helping to figure out which resources and solutions actually apply to you and fit your needs. And so really it's like, let's do a bulk of work to put together your ideal plan and your emergency plan. And then let's figure out the things in between. Here, we meet with the clients at least quarterly. That's mandatory. You can call us every day if you want. You don't have to call us every day. We'll reach out to you to make sure things are okay. And if you need anything, but we're here as a resource because you don't know if something's going to happen today, tomorrow, the next day. And so that is a very important part, I think, of having a care manager, an elder care coordinator, as someone who is available to help you navigate things as they come up. Because it's like, you don't even know what questions you have sometimes. And I think that's the other really important piece is we know what questions you should be asking because often you don't, right? And that's okay because you're just trying to get through the day to day. But caregiver burnout is so real. So we talk about helping the seniors, but the other part is this is a support tool for the caregivers to make sure they're okay too.
Yeah. And, I think I could have a house on Ocean Road in Newport if I had a dime every time I said Medicare does not cover long-term care.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
People just don't realize it.
They don't. And the confusion, it kind of drives me crazy that there's not more education and easily accessible information, which I feel like your organization is doing such a great job at providing that for people, because they need a reliable source that they can go to and they know the information is accurate and vetted. And that's the difficulty, because you will see all these scare tactics, all this marketing based around fear for all kinds of different things, including long-term care, skilled care, like those kinds of things. Or so-and-so happened to my neighbor. Well, their financial situation, their family situation may be completely different. The reality is, and we've talked about this before, right? So if people are listening to your podcast regularly, they'll know, but Medicare only covers skilled care. You're only getting rehabilitation covered. And even at that, it's not that much. 20 days in full, another 80 days at a copay, but you're not guaranteed that. And I rarely see anybody ever get that 100 days. And so you have to be looking at what's next. And that is part of a care plan is, okay, if you needed rehab, nothing wrong with needing rehab. And people of all ages need rehab to, rehab from a hospital stay, a surgery, whatever. But what is the plan after that? And not just what is the plan, what's your ideal plan, what's your plan B, what's your plan C? Because sometimes there is a little bit more of a stay that's needed and Medicare isn't going to cover that. So what does that look like from both getting the care, finding the right resources, and again, how are you going to pay for that?
Right. And I think a lot of times people underestimate the statement of there is a healthcare workforce shortage. So just because you need help at home doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be a body to do the work. With your care manager, can you help the families of your client, if that client maybe has had a stroke or some catastrophic medical event and they're in the hospital, can your care manager help the families kind of navigate that? Or is it strictly limited to your client? How does that work?
We absolutely can help. So there's services within our life care planning sphere can include legal services, can include life care planning, the elder care coordinator services, and how much of one or the other you need is just very individual. There's no set, like this is exactly what it has to look like. It's different for everybody. And we really try to tailor the work that we do for our clients to what is, in their best interest and what they need. A lot of what we do though, is we do help to coordinate. Okay, you're ready to, you had a stroke, maybe you want to come home and we need some care. How do we find that care, right? There is a healthcare worker shortage. So how do we get the agencies or the people who are going to show up? What is your plan B? Again, I hate to keep saying that, but like if that worker doesn't show up, what is the agency's plan B? Because the answer is not the same across the board. We know the different agencies. We know all the different assisted living, nursing home, skilled care facilities. And so we're able to help clients figure out what's the best fit for them and give them the real world information about how these things work and help to make sure they do have the right plan and the right resources and the right support, whether it's going home or it's going somewhere else. And if there's a transition needed to assisted living or to a long-term care facility, whether for a short-term or a long-term, we're able to help clients navigate which is the best fit for you. We always say choose three. Choose your top three. We'll help you figure out what those are rather than you going online, seeing all the facilities in the state and being overwhelmed, right? We'll say, okay, tell me what you like to do. What are your care needs? Like, what are the finances? Here's the top three that we think would be a good fit for you. Some of the facilities have really good like craft clubs. Some have games, some have art. It's all these different things that you don't think about because you're really focused on how do I make sure my loved one is safe or, if it's yourself, it's a lot of fear about what's next. But let's make sure whatever it is that you need, you still have some enjoyment, in your life. And so a lot of that is what community you choose. And we're able to help with that as well.
That is huge because I think people don't necessarily, in general, read the fine print. So you start Google searching and then there's a contact me form and what is it that you're looking for? And you hit okay without actually reading that teeny tiny print. And what you just actually consented to was to have your information blasted out to every marketing professional in the aging field. And now your phone is blowing up and it's like, oh my goodness, way overwhelming. And you said something really important about when you're choosing a facility or choosing care, that the fit for you is important. Not, it may not be the pretty chandelier.
You're right. And I think the reality is like you can have two people who like medically present similar, who need similar levels of care, rehab, whatever you may need, but you like different things. You're happy with different things, different communities. Some people are more like to keep to themselves, whereas other people really love socialization and need to have activities. There's just a lot of different things to consider because happiness is important, right? Aging is not always the most graceful or wonderful thing, but like you said, it's going to happen to all of us. But
Right.
how do we do that in a way that we are maximizing the quality of your years? Again, not just the quantity.
Absolutely. Now, with the care management services, can you help folks who have maybe recently been diagnosed with a progressive disease like dementia or
Mhm.
Parkinson's or MS, ALS, some of these things that it's not going to get better than it is right
Yeah.
now?
Yeah, we often help in those situations. We have many clients who fall into that scope. And the reality of having someone who's managing your care and helping from an elder care coordination standpoint is they will help you now, but they also understand the likely trajectory of what you will need in 3 months, 6 months, 2 years. And so the planning is not just how do we meet your needs right now, but also what do we need to be watching out for? What are indications that maybe there's a change? And then with our quarterly evaluations, we're making sure we are visiting the client where they're at their home, making sure they're safe, making sure the planning is still working, because you might not even realize that there's a better solution or there's another resource available. And sometimes, let's say Alzheimer's, for instance, like people may be at home and their spouse is caring for them. And then there's a point where that's not working great. The spouse says, I can't do this anymore. I'm overwhelmed, but I don't want my spouse to move out. Okay, well, let's look at adult day communities. Maybe we look at the Hope Alzheimer's Center. Maybe we look at adult daycare. What are those resources? But that doesn't mean you don't need anything at home too, because people are
Right.
sundowning. There's just a lot of different things to understand about different diseases, and they affect everybody a little bit differently. But there are normal things we can say. Okay, these are the things that people need to have set up. And what we see the most is like the peace of mind for
Yeah.
people to know, I don't know exactly what's going to happen, today, tomorrow, the next day, but I know that I have a plan and I have someone to support me, so I don't have to figure it out all alone.
And I think because a caregiver and sometimes the individual themselves, you don't know what to expect and you don't know what you don't know. Having
Mhm.
someone who has a wider and deeper depth of knowledge of the fact that, everyone's walk with dementia is their own individual walk with dementia, but here are some commonalities. And
Mhm.
when you are in that um, guide role, knowing what some of the paths look like for other individuals can be really helpful for folks who are on that journey now. It's not
Yeah, I
limiting.
agree. And then, right. And then it's having the resource to know that if things change or it doesn't go exactly as we think it's going to, there is someone there that you can pick up the phone and call, and they will answer your questions. They'll show up, they'll help you navigate. Okay, how do we, change this plan a little bit to meet what is happening? So, kind of like you talked about parenting little kids, like I have 4 kids, they're all different. So I could have thought before I had a kid, here's how I'm going to raise them. But you have to adjust as they age to the different nuances. And it's the same kind of thing as, as we have people aging and we're caring for seniors, you don't know exactly what's going to come, but you can have a solid plan. You can have the right support tools. You can have a plan A, B, and C. Provides peace of mind. Make sure your loved one is safe, because that's the most important thing that we see. And that's a big burden, to make sure someone is safe while you're also, as a caregiver, trying to live your life and manage all your things that you have to do as well.
And I would assume, and you know what happens when one assumes, but I would assume that having that third party care manager helps resolve some of the family conflicts. When you said you had 4 kids, there's the saying, one mom can care for 4 kids, but 4 kids can't care for one mom. And I would imagine having that
Yeah.
third party
Mhm.
kind of helps people kind of stay in their role as child versus, really
Yeah.
in-depth care worker.
I have that conversation a lot. And, my passion for this comes from my family being caregivers for my grandparents. My mom is a nurse, and I've seen her do this for my grandpa, who passed a few years ago, my grandmother, who still lives at home in the community but has a lot of care needs. Like, we have been through this struggle personally, so I know it from that side as well as the professional side. And, the reality is, when you have to go from being a child to a caregiver, you may love your parents and you may want to do everything you can for them, but not everybody is good at healthcare. Not everybody is good at personal care, and
Right.
it can damage the relationship and create resentment or create these difficult things where, as the caregiver, people don't want to say, this is hard, I can't do it, right? But they need to be given the okay to say, these are the things that work, these are the ones that don't. Let's find support for those. And it's okay. You're not doing anything wrong by needing some assistance. And all the time, I say to clients, it allows you to go back to being their child, or it allows you to go back to being their spouse. And they're like, that sounds nice. And then it's like you see after a couple months, we've gotten into the plan, we have the care in place, and they take a deep breath and they take a sigh of relief, and they're like, oh, you're right. And you almost don't even realize it because the need creeps up so much steadily over time that the overwhelm, it's like, you're overwhelmed, but you don't realize how much until the burden is removed.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like, adding the weight a little piece at a time, and you never
Mhm.
know when it's the last one that'll be the breaking point. So, if
Yeah.
people want to reach out to you to talk to you about the care management services and the other services that are available with McCarthy Law, how can they reach you?
Sure. I mean, there's a ton of free information on our website, which is www.mccarthylawri.com. We also have a very active social media, Facebook, Instagram. I think we're doing TikTok now too. I don't know. So lots of information, helpful videos and things. So that's a good way to just get some access to resources in a way that's like, doesn't require a lot of work, right? We're
Yeah.
also happy to answer questions, have a phone, call, a Zoom meeting, or an in-person meeting, of course, at our office. Our phone number is 401-541-5540. You can also just shoot us an email, or there's a contact information form on our website. So those are easy ways to get in touch as well.
Oh, simple. So they can go on the McCarthy Law website, or they
Mhm.
can give you a call, and to reach out, they can speak to you briefly and get some information. That's the 407-5975. You're right over in East Greenwich. And I think I heard you say that with the care management program, the care manager can go out to the house as well once that's like up and running.
Yeah, they absolutely will. It is essentially a requirement. They need to meet the client where they're at. So if they're
I
at
love
home,
it.
if they're in an assisted living, if they're in a skilled nursing facility, we want to see the client where they're at so we can make sure you have the right resources for there. Because you come to our office, that's great. We love to have you. We'll give you coffee. It's great to chat, but that's not your life, right? That's not how we're trying to support your care. So they absolutely will go out to meet you. And the attorneys, if we have legal stuff, legal questions, we'll always do a legal analysis too of what documents are in place, what are the needs of the client. And so they can meet with clients where they're at as well. So, we have a great office in East Greenwich, and we love to welcome people here. We just moved. So it is beautiful and bright, but you don't have to come here if you don't want, or we can do a combination, of the both. And I think it's also worth noting, because I think a lot of people hear about this and they think like, that sounds expensive. All of our care planning and the majority of our estate planning too is done on a flat fee basis, but the care planning is one flat fee for the whole year. So you pay that fee, and however much you need us, we're there. And so it's often not cost prohibitive, which people think it is when they hear that. And so I think it's important to evaluate, like, based on your level of care and the needs. Like, I always say, evaluate what the options are, and then you make an informed decision. And if your answer is no and that doesn't work for you, that's great, but you made that with all of the information available.
Exactly. Having the information, the proper information, the accurate information to make your decisions is really key in all of this.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
I am so glad that you're able to come on. I again kept you longer than I promised.
That's okay. Thank you so much. I'm always happy to be here. I'm so supportive of what you're doing, and the information you're getting out is so important. It's such a necessary thing for people aging in Rhode Island. So
Thank you.
welcome.
I will see you again, my friend.
All right. Sounds good. Talk soon.
Everybody, Samantha really truly offers a wealth of information and resources to be able to have a care manager for your loved one or for yourself. If you think about, if something happens and you need to navigate, say, from the hospital into a long-term care setting, having someone who can coordinate, even getting, say, your socks and underwear to the facility in a timely manner, and making sure that your house has groceries in it for when you return after getting the rehab that you needed. Those are really critical in order to maintain your independence as you get older and to support someone who wants to maintain their independence as they get older. So I really do encourage you, reach out to Samantha's team. They're a great group. You can give them a call. You can go on their website, and she does have a lot of social media. So I encourage you to check it out because, you know, we are all in this together. We have to row the boat in the same direction, right? Well, everybody, I hope you're enjoying this fabulous September Friday. I look forward to seeing you all again next week. In the meantime, be well and be kind.
If you like this video, please follow us on social media and subscribe on YouTube. For more information, visit rielderinfo.com or call 401-585-0509. If you have any questions, email deb@rielderinfo.com.